Liverpool
Yeah.
beaten 3-0 at home at Anfield by Nottingham Forest. They are on pace to concede the most goals in 60 plus years since the 64-65 season,
Yeah.
which, by the way, was a 42 game Premier League. Um, let's go there, Jules. There's, as I see it, there's so many things going wrong.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's start unpacking. What is the most serious thing, if you had to boil it down to one thing? You can't.
I think for the first time, maybe since the start of the season, where we've talked enough about Liverpool's fragilities and problems, issues, and all of that. But I thought they were clueless on Saturday. I thought Arne Slot was completely lost, looked lost on the bench. He's usually quite composed, isn't he? He's usually quite
Measured.
measured, exactly.
Yeah,
Very
and
good
his little
words.
notebook. And
Yeah,
like,
exactly. But I mean, he was literally staring, like having no clue what to do next. He chucked a lot of players on, a lot of attackers on, which didn't make any sense. And as we know, this just rarely works anyway.
Well, you can't chuck defenders on because he doesn't have any.
It's true, but playing with two defenders from minute 55 or so is not the answer either. If you're Liverpool Football Club, it's actually quite embarrassing to think that, hey, yeah, let's do that. Forest are never going to punish us for having to just two defenders on the pitch, and those defenders are Van Dijk and Kirkers as well. So they got spanked and they deserve to, and just nothing is going their way. And we said from the beginning, Gab, a lot from the beginning of the season, a lot of the time, okay, he needs to find solutions now. There's a lot of issues, but that's why he's a highly rated manager, highly paid manager, successful manager, because those guys usually find answers. And I think for the first time on Saturday, I thought they had more problems than actually trying to find answers.
Look, I always say this: Slot obviously bears a lot of responsibility. Many of the players bear a lot of responsibility. There's a long laundry list. But I was struck by the fact that I have maximum respect for Virgil van Dijk because he's the guy who puts the face out there, right? Afterwards, he's the guy who talks and addresses it. And he said, "It's a mess. There's no use denying it." Or he said something to that effect,
Yeah.
right? I think "it's a mess" was his words. Okay, and obviously Slot speaks. There's nobody else. There's nobody else coming forward showing leadership other than Van Dijk, who, let's face it, hopefully he'll be part of the solution. He's also part of the problem here because there's nobody to replace him because he's not on the level he was at last year, even though he's better than Konate, although that's not saying much right now.
Yeah.
I think one of the ways out of this, we can sit here and say, all right, Slot, figure it out, try different combinations. He's tried just about everything, right? He's read Szoboszlai a right back, Szoboszlai in midfield. Kirk is in, Robbo in, Kirk is out. Wirtz has played left wing 10, right wing number 9. There's the Isak issue. He's tried all these combinations, and he can continue trying, and I think he will figure it out one day, but somebody else should speak up. Somebody else should give a voice here. And again, here we see the differences between the continent and the Premier League. In the continent, you would have an owner, a director of football, ideally, somebody coming out. I had Michael Edwards there. I don't know. It's just not done here culturally, but he looks so alone, Arne Slot.
Yeah. I mean, sure. I agree with you. I think it's always good to show unity, I guess, and things like that. But I think whoever talks, the problems on the pitch are so bad that I don't know what kind of help it would give. I mean, they play, I think, the PSV in the Champions League in midweek, and again,
that should help.
Well, would it?
Which bald Dutch manager is going to?
True, but then they also destroyed Napoli, and I don't know it was in Eindhoven, but so you just don't know again what you're going to get.
That was a bit fortuitous too. By the way, before, because I don't want Mr. Marinakis to call me and scold me again.
Yeah.
Can we give a lot of credit to Nottingham Forest and Sean Dyche, who I am not a fan of Sean Dyche, but you have to tip your cap to him for the impact he's had. I think it's been more than just going and getting them tidy and solid. This was only going in one direction. Yeah. Although some stat nerds told me that the underlying metrics under Postecoglou were actually more positive than the results, but I'll leave that to the all handlings.
They were. Remember the Chelsea game that they lost when they should have been 3-0 up at half time.
Huge win for Mr. Marinakis and also Nottingham Forest and Sean Dyche and everybody else. But mostly Mr. Marinakis, of course. It's going to be painful, Jules.
Yeah.
Let's go through this. First thing I want to highlight is squad construction. And I know, stop me if I said this before. And in this, there's two elements. One is you're integrating. They brought in, I think it was 10 new players. 2 of them are kids who never play. But at a minimum, is basically 5 starters. Plus Leone, who, for better or worse, was going to be part of the relation before he got hurt, right? This is when you bring this many people into a Premier League winning team, when on top of that, you also send a clear message to, and I'm not saying it's right, or I might have made this exact same decisions, right? But Trent, gone. In comes Kirkes. Robbo doesn't get a new contract. And here's Kirkes. And Kirkes is the new starter, the new left back, the new projected starter, right? Szoboszlai, hey, we won the title with you at number 10 last year, right? No, you moved to right back because you can pass.
Well, that was not the plan.
No, I know, but it became the plan very quickly. So I think I wonder if there was a destabilizing effect on some of the players who kind of like, wait, we won the title. Who are these people going in? The incredible Swedish Sulk, some other Muppet who scored goals for Eintracht, right? Frimpong, come on. Kirkes coming from Bournemouth. So this is Liverpool. You have to prove yourself here first, and then we move the pieces around, right? And I wonder if to some degree, and it's a human element, right? We've all played, whatever level we played at. We played on teams. When there's a newcomer coming in, there's some element of that. None of these people, maybe Wirtz, maybe Isak, if it hadn't come out in that way, none of these people are Messi coming in. None of these people come in and, McAllister says, oh, wow, Kirkes is so much better than Robbo. Yeah, dump Robbo, right? Nobody said that. That, for me, is something that you have to allow for when you're changing nearly half the team, that it's going to take time. Maybe it shouldn't have taken this long, but it's going to take time. The other big thing, like we said, the failure to get Marc Guéhi, it's not inexcusable. Everything can be excused, and I'm sure there's reasons and whatever. Clearly, somebody got this badly wrong, either because they were duped, either because Steve Parish was in his spa day in Soho that day and changed his mind. Something happened, which has not yet been made public, which torpedoed a deal that was done and a deal that Liverpool needed. And if I am the people running the club right now, I mean, Michael Edwards knows what happened. But if I'm Michael Edwards' boss, I ask, what happened? How do we make sure this never happens again, that we end up in this situation? Because, Jules, the situation can get worse. If Konate or Van Dijk get injured, the situation nosedives.
I mean, there's a month to wait now until the transfer window in January, which is inevitable that they're going to sign a defender. Ideally, I guess somebody who could play right back and centre back as well. But even if it's just a centre back or somebody who just can do a job there, I think they'll take it. It might not be Guéhi because they might not be able to sign him in January for obvious reasons. It might have to be somebody else, and then maybe revisit Guéhi as a free agent in the summer, or go for Upamecano if Konate leaves as well, or I don't know.
By the way, quite a free agent market for center backs. Guéhi, Upamecano, Konate. There's a lot on the market this summer.
It is, yeah. So let's see for the summer when that window arrives. But in January they have to, and it's actually weird to say that after spending almost £500 million in transfers 4 months ago, they would have to fix it in January in a month time, because there's still pieces missing in his jigsaw, which is quite unbelievable to say.
And throw more good money after bad, as the saying goes.
They can't have that much left, though, to be honest. Even if they sold well and hadn't done anything much in the last few transfer windows, they still have a net spend of 200 million or so.
I think, it's going to be big, and I think especially with the squad cost ratio rules coming in, well, they already exist, obviously, they're already subject to them in UEFA, but they're going to have to get the nerds to figure out, all right, what is the percentage chance that we don't make the Champions League?
Yeah.
And that will guide us to how much we can spend in terms of resources in January. In the same way that it's probably guiding them with Konate. I want to ask you about this because I told you this, that I don't know if it was last week or the week before. I told you, I'd been told, obviously wrongly, that there'd been a breakthrough in the Konate deal.
Yeah.
There obviously hasn't been.
No.
He's still not signed. Now, they took your French. I'm going to assume that you know the ins and outs. Why
Yeah.
hasn't he extended?
No, they haven't found any. There's been nothing more positive in the last few weeks than there was before. I think he was not happy with the contract that he had, I think. And now, 6 months before being a free agent,
Eh,
and I think he's testing the market too and see what could come in. Maybe he wants something new. Maybe he felt like he's done enough at Liverpool.
In
It's
5 weeks, he can sign with any club in
yeah,
Europe, and obviously in the summer he becomes a free agent. So that is something that's an issue. And I know they took a hard line with Salah, Van Dijk, and Trent last year, and it worked out with Salah and Van Dijk. Um, but I think it's a different situation. I think it's Konate's what, 26?
yeah, 25 or 26, yeah,
So he has a whole other career cycle ahead of him
yeah,
if he wants to at a different club. And you go back to this, and you know, we saw what happened with Trent. And the reason Trent didn't extend his contract when he was supposed to, in other words, 18 months or 2 years before, was very simple. It was Klopp's final season. It was Michael Edwards and Richard Hughes they only came back, I think, in March of that year. So that time, that 18 months to 2.5 years or to 2 years left, which is the sweet spot for extending a deal and really committing to a club, there was nobody there, I think, to offer him the clarity. Klopp had said he was leaving. I think he said it in October, November, right? So all of a sudden, that's when I think Trent was taken aback. And in the end, in the last year, they couldn't come to terms. I think Liverpool had a clear ceiling on what they were willing to spend, and obviously Real Madrid were interested. And by the way, for those who said, "Oh, if he really loved the club, he would have extended his contract, and that way Liverpool could have gotten a transfer fee," I can pretty much assure you that if Real Madrid had to spend 50 million on Trent, Trent would have had to take a massive pay cut to go to Real Madrid. More likely, Real Madrid wouldn't have spent 50 million on Trent. Um, so that's what makes the Konate situation different. You're not talking about somebody for 2 years, where if Salah or Van Dijk, if it goes pear shaped, they'll be gone in
yeah,
18
yeah,
months. You're talking about somebody who you're going to make a long term commitment to, somebody who will presumably become the leader of your defense once Van Dijk moves on.
yeah.
I think this is having an impact on the pitch and in the dressing room.
Yeah, the dressing room, I don't have enough from there. But on the pitch, I think maybe even Konate himself is not playing with the kind of serenity that he usually has because of that situation. I don't know. I think he had felt unhappy with his contract for a long time, which we know is not the money that he gets, and maybe didn't feel that the recognition from the club had come early enough. It's always difficult. And now, when you're that close of running down your contract, if Real Madrid come calling, if I don't know, Bayern Munich come calling because they want to replace Upamecano, who could be leaving as well, all that kind of stuff, then I think if you're Konate, you wait a bit longer, and you're in such a strong position that you play that waiting
Right.
game.
If you've seen Konate play this year, he's in a less strong position because he's having a dip, and it's a bit. I think it was Klopp's second to last season, and I may be getting this wrong, but there was a period when Klopp actually started picking Jarrell Quansah ahead of him. So he's had these dips in form before. Obviously, last year he had a monster season. Further up the pitch, Mohamed Salah, like when you have a guy like Salah who creates out of nothing and scores and so on, he papers over a lot of cracks. Even when things are imperfect elsewhere, it doesn't matter because you have a 2-goal lead. In the same way that if Elliot Anderson doesn't materialize on the line, maybe they score, maybe this game goes into a different direction.
Yeah.
But all the issues and all the problems would still be there. It's not like they go
Yeah,
away
absolutely.
just because
Like
you're
they
getting
were when they
results
were winning at the last
at the
minute.
start of the season, right?
Yeah.
6 in a row, but there's issues. Salah isn't where he was last year.
No.
Do we think we're going to get real Salah in the second half of the season?
I don't know. He's going to leave in 3 weeks' time anyway to go to AFCON. Well, yeah,
Will he come back refreshed?
3 weeks. Well, I don't know if they go
Ahead of
all
the
the
World
way.
Cup?
Egypt, it's not going to be refreshed if he has to play
It'll be
7 games,
And it'll be stressful because it's Egypt.
and he's going to go straight back into playing every 3 days, Champions League in the league and Champions League. I don't know. I do think we said last season. It's really he was incredible between August and January. After that, after Liverpool were knocked out in the Champions League by PSG in February, after that it was nowhere near as good as it'd been in the first half of the season. So this kind of poor form it's not something new. It's not like if you've just gone from being amazing again to this poor where even sometimes a first touch or a dribble where usually he's just so good at it, it's not happening. It's just not clicking.
It still happens occasionally. It doesn't happen as
Yeah.
regularly as it did. And I don't think there's any question. I don't know if it's something physical or whatever. The defensive output isn't there at all from.
It was
from
never
Salah.
really there though.
I would argue with
Nah, I
Klopp.
disagree.
I would argue with Klopp in the Mane Firmino years.
Yeah, but that's the counter pressing. It's very different than following your fullback, for example. But because they're far more vulnerable, the counter pressing is almost non-existent. I mean, pressing and counter pressing has been a problem all through the season. Like the build-up phase, by the way, without Trent and right back, they're really struggling with it. Hence the Szoboszlai right back idea, which I'm not sure is a very good one. But anyway, at least you try something else. But following his fullback is nothing. But again, it's not him. A lot of wingers just don't do that. So that's also a problem because the rest of what Liverpool do without the ball is also a struggle.
I think also at his age, there's an
course,
idea that you can
sure.
only make so many recovery
absolutely,
runs, right?
Absolutely.
Alexander Isak has scored as many goals for Liverpool in the Premier League and Champions League as you have this
And
season,
you, yeah,
Jules.
yeah.
And you don't play for Liverpool.
Neither do you, yeah. I have to say,
Well, you're a better footballer than me. Slightly.
Yeah, but before we go, why is he starting this game?
So he can play himself into fitness because at some point he's got to develop the chemistry.
So you've got another number 9 because you've got 2 number 9. We said they wanted 2 number 9s. They bought 2 very expensive, very good number 9s, very similar number 9s. But now you have that luxury, right? A lot of clubs would love to have Isak and Ekitike as your 2 number 9s, right? Even top clubs.
I would say Chelsea probably would.
Yeah. PSG would love to have Isak and Ekitike as the 2 number 9 more than Gonzalo Ramos and
I don't know if Luis
Mayulu
Enrique
now.
likes number 9s
True,
as much
but
as
you
you
know
do.
what
But
I
yeah,
mean,
no, I take
like-
your point. Yeah.
And yet you pick the one, and I know he's not much fit, so I know there's a need for him to play. But the last time he started was a month ago. He went away with Sweden in international break. He played 28 minutes in the first game off the bench, 0 minute in the second game. The second game he sat on the bench the whole 90 minutes. He's not in form. I'm not saying Ekitike is not much more in form in the league because I think he scored 1 in 6 or something. But he scored with France in the international break a great goal against Ukraine. He's clearly in better form and more confident than Isak is right now. Why you pick the wrong one?
Because you're at home against Nottingham Forest. Nottingham Forest.
and
Okay,
so
I know,
what?
I'm going to make the counter.
I know,
argument,
but like,
right? But this is a logical game, more so perhaps than PSV Eindhoven, given that Bosch is on a high right now and they run around more.
I'm not sure it is, really.
But I mean, I can see the logic. Obviously, it didn't work out, and I think the guy's broader issues. But at home, you expect against Forest a big physical dude up front against a team that you think is going to park the bus because it's Sean Dyche. I can see the logic. It's Anfield. You've
I
got
don't
some
see
level
the logic at all. Why you pick the guy who's not in form compared to the guy who's in form?
because you want him to get. But
Yeah, but
that's
it's
what
not that
Slot
way.
said.
Because look, it's the counter product. It's worked the complete other way. If you read the stats of Isak in that game, he played 68 minutes, I think. It's embarrassing. It is embarrassing.
Yeah, no, they didn't find again the ball.
It's just embarrassing. The guy had 1 shot, and that's the only touch I think he had in the box. He had 2 touches in 68 minutes. And I don't know why you. For me,
So you
it
don't
was like
believe
a
this whole
poison.
trope that when strikers aren't scoring, sometimes, oh, look, a scuff shot, the ball comes off his backside, all of a sudden their confidence is. Because this is what I hear from ex-footballers
But
all the time.
yeah,
I know, I don't believe it.
But if you're
I
in a
guess
good
you don't
te-
believe it either.
No, but if you're in a good team, a team that's winning, no problem. Play him because. But you're in crisis.
Liverpool lost this game, but it's not like.
But it doesn't matter if they won't.
This isn't like Manchester United last season when they were 15th
But the
or
team is
16th.
not playing well, Gab.
No,
So
I
why
agree.
do you play in a team that is not playing well? A player who's nowhere near his best form, out of confidence, out of form, struggling.
I might argue this because he's tried everything else. Nothing's
Maybe,
working.
But Ekitike, I know Ekitike is only 1 goal in his last 6 with Liverpool. But the goal with France was great. His performances with France were great, and they were only last week. It didn't make any sense. And already you stood at the lineup. You went, oh, Isak there? I'm not sure. And if that didn't work, the rest was not going to work, and the rest didn't work either. And I just don't think, like his substitutions that we spoke about earlier, just checking attackers. Here you go, Chiesa. Here you go, Rio. Here you go, Ekitike. It just doesn't work like this.
The other issue is a guy who didn't play today. And we disagree somewhat on this, and that's why we made my bet about the number of games he's going to start number 10 to start anyway. Florian Wirtz, I think this is definitely part of the conversation, because if the team is built for Wirtz at number 10, it means that when I'm playing somebody else there, I'm making an adjustment. Szoboszlai maybe, even though he's got a different skill set from Wirtz, but then again, he's playing Szoboszlai right back.
Yeah, it's Curtis Jones that played in kind of,
Yeah, very similar to Wirtz, isn't he? Curtis Jones. He's identical. He's the English Curtis Jones. Sorry, the English Florian Wirtz. This is an issue too. He's got to find the balance that either allows him to play him at 10 or to find a spot on the pitch where he can influence games.
Yeah.
And I think he's had this, understandably, because it was a club's record signing along with Isak, right? I think it's almost like he's had this obsession with making this work. And I think it's also taken him from, perhaps, I'm just chunking this out there, from addressing some of the other problems that he has on the team, like the Kirkes situation at left back, like the center backs. Is this going to fix itself?
I don't know. I mean, Fanay's injured anyway, so I don't think Slot has to think about it, and he's probably happy with that because there's just another.
But if he finds a formula that works without Wirtz and with no space for Wirtz, then Wirtz is going to come back. And
yeah, but then you, I think right now they need to go for what's working, and nothing is working. So by the time Wirtz come back, nothing might work anyway. So, but it's just another layer. When you think about the fact that last season Slot had really, I know there was a few bits and bobs, the PSG game that we mentioned, the Forest defeat straight after the November international break, October international break, for example. Little bits there and there like that, okay, maybe. But he had nothing really to sort out, as in terms of crisis moments, big issues, let's focus on this. Now he's got all the list that we just mentioned, plus more that we just don't have the time because it's already long on Liverpool.
And we need to leave room for positivity corner.
Yes, of course, that you're really keen on, which, you know, I might leave you to it because I don't share it so much, that corner. But it's a completely different job for him than it was last season, 100%.
All right. This is my positivity corner. These are reasons.
I give you the floor.
Okay. Number one, for all the garbage, however bad they've been, with just a couple of exceptions, most of the season, they're 5 points out of second place. 5 points is something manageable. And the teams in front of them, you can say, oh, look, they're in the bottom half of the table. Yeah, but the teams in front of them, except for Arsenal, except for Crystal Palace, maybe one or two others who I don't remember right now, all of them have problems. All of them have issues. All of them have things to fix. It's not, maybe the title's gone, you're 11 points back, but you can finish the season strong. You can do something in Europe. And I think that's why you don't pack it in at this stage of the season. You don't just turn this into a rebuilding year. And I think that's an important stimulus. Okay, that's my first positive point.
Yeah.
Second positive point, Isak cannot possibly be as bad in the second half of the season as he has been thus far, right? You agree?
Yeah,
Even when he was bad at Dortmund, he wasn't this bad.
No. But the team as well, at some point they're going to get better. We just don't know when.
All right. And I think my third positivity is...
It's a big corner, though.
It is a big corner. Smart people learn from their mistakes. Michael Edwards and Richard Hughes are smart people, right? Michael Edwards has had setbacks. He's been punched in the face. He's come back. All these people say the man is a genius. I would like to think that he can push the right buttons, whether it's a signing in January. Now, I'm going to stereotype here because I don't know Michael Edwards as well as I know Richard Hughes, but I think that role, is really important here because you need, obviously, intelligence, the planning, blah, blah, blah. You also need a high degree of emotional intelligence. You need the EQ. You need to know how to talk to the players, to the coach, and so on. I know Richard Hughes can do that. And I think they definitely bear some of the responsibility for what happened in the summer, which they may all turn out to be great ideas in 3 years' time, but right now they're not.
Yeah.
I have faith that they can act and they can salvage this and that Liverpool can go on a run in Europe and finish top four. Is it disappointing given they won the title last year and spent the moon in the summer? Probably. But at least it's forward progress. That's my positivity corner.
Well done.
Have I convinced you?
Liverpool fans.
Have I convinced you?
Absolutely not. But I'm in the negativity corner.